Welcome back. Today we have another tremendous visit from one of my favorite authors, D.A. Reed. She's a good friend, a tremendous author. Today we have a really special treat. If you have young people, teenagers in the room nearby, turn up the volume, put it on the speakers, send it through the surround sound. This is a story that I think everybody in the family needs to be aware of. This is an important one. Deborah, thanks so much for coming back.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
This is so much fun. So today we're going to be talking about just a listener advisory, just in case. We are going to be talking about a story that deals with teen suicide. So I just want to be sensitive to anybody who might have younger children nearby. Check the show notes to learn more about that. But I think this is a tremendously important story that I think everybody, no matter their age, should have it on their bookshelves. So just my personal endorsement, because I think it's a really spectacular story, but on top of that, I think it's a really important story. So thank you, Deborah, for writing this one.
Yes.
This is called All the Things We Didn't See. But before Deborah starts to read, I want to tell you a little bit about her background, since you may not have heard of Deborah before. I keep forgetting that people don't know you. You're such a part of my life that I forget there are people out there who might be hearing you for the first time.
Yes, this is true.
So I'm going to let everybody know about you and your spectacularness. D.A. Reed writes young adult novels, from page-turning thrillers to stories based on challenges children and adults face every day. Her stories have garnered the attention of readers and fellow authors alike. Since 2016, author Johnathan Rand of the Michigan Chillers fame, we love him, has invited her to be a writing instructor at Author Quest Writing Camp for young writers. You know, just between you and me, I want to be 13 again, so I can go to camp.
Yeah, me too.
She was also asked to present at several several writer and educator conferences, including North of 45 Retreat for Writers, Delta Kappa Gamma Women's Educator Conference, and regional district libraries. Deborah also offers writing workshops at various venues. Deborah's international travels include leading creative writing workshops to children, most notably, say it again for me.
Sharjah.
Sharjah. See, me in foreign language, not a thing. And most notably at the Sharjah International Book Fair in the United Arab Emirates. Deborah's books have received acclaim, notably Moonbeam's Children's Book Awards in the category of Young Adult Fiction for All the Things We Didn't See in 2021, and Dare Accepted in 2020. She also won Best Indie Book Award in the category of Young Adult Drama for All the Things We Didn't See, and Nothing But Gutters and Pocket Change from 2020. And the list goes on. Independent Press Award, Distinguished Favorite 2022 for All the Things We Didn't See. She writes suspense thriller fiction for adults as well, including 3 thrilling tales, 1 killer book, the Caitlin O'Reilly Mystery Series, and Web of Deceit, as well as a collection of humorous essays, Chicken Butt Hair, Tales of an Over-Caffeinated Human. And I don't care how many times I say it, I love saying that title. It just makes me giggle. You may also find Deborah's short horror stories published in Share Your Scare, a Lulu anthology, and annual literary and visual arts magazine, the Garfield Lake Review. And just in case some of you also don't know, Deborah donates a great deal of her writing to the Pages Promotions community service anthologies, the most recent of which, The Gift and Other Stories, will be coming out shortly. You're a great gift to our writing community, and I am so super glad that you keep giving that gift to us over and over again.
Thank you.
Deborah lives with her husband and family in Western Michigan. as I said, this is a really important book. I can't tell you enough about this book. I could say over and over again, read it, read it, read it, read it, and I still wouldn't be able to say it often enough. All the things we didn't see. It's been 3 years since Isabel Crane's sister died. Everyone thinks it was a tragic accident, but Izzy believes Astrid took her own life. When Izzy finds her sister's journal, her suspicions are confirmed. But Izzy isn't prepared for the hostility she must face from her own family and friends as she attempts to reveal Astrid's truth. While attempting to navigate her newly tumultuous life, Izzy realizes she could lose one of the people she loves most to the same darkness that claimed her sister. With her life unraveling at an alarming rate, Izzy is unsure to do what she believes is right without destroying the relationships most important to her. This is it's one of my favorite books. It's one of the books that I enjoyed most, but I also got to say it was challenged to get through. And yet, through all that, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm glad I could write it.
I'm really
Glad I
excited.
had the help to write it.
I'm so glad that we get to share this. I'm going to stop gushing because I do that with authors that I love. So I'm going to stop doing that, and I'm going to turn the mic over to you, and I'm going to let you read your story aloud.
All right, I'm going to start at chapter 11, which is a little ways into the story. Izzy has found Astrid's diary, and then there's a conversation with her friend Harper that I'm also going to read. The house was quiet when I walked in, too quiet. Lorna was in the kitchen prepping dinner when I walked through. She caught my eye and the greeting I'd planned died on my lips. Careful, darling, Lorna said, her dark eyes even more opaque than usual. They're all riled up. Her gaze moved toward the entrance to the living room. Awesome. I felt a headache start flaring over my left eye as I dumped my bag on one of the bar stools. With the radio silence during the day, I thought they'd either forgotten about or given up on the issue of Astrid's journal. If they were still worked up about it, I figured I'd have a billion texts from them today, either trying to threaten or cajole me into giving it up. Resting my hand on my backpack, I looked directly into Lorna's eyes, making a sudden decision to trust her. Her gaze slid to my hand, then back up to my face. She nodded once, and I knew she'd make sure Astrid's diary stayed where it was. I walked toward the living room with resignation, suddenly exhausted. Did I have it in me to go head to head with my parents? For myself? No. For Astrid? Always. And there was no way I would let Mom bury Astrid's truth to save face. Tyler's comments about Astrid hiding her diary and framing her death to look like an accident meant she didn't want the truth to come out, poked at the edges of my mind. I shoved them away. I couldn't believe my sister didn't want us to know, to understand her reasoning for taking her own life. She had to know we would find out eventually. That's why she left the sticky note on the journal. Fake it till you make it, right? I walked into the living room with my chin high, jaw set. They'd never know I felt like vomiting all over the obscenely expensive oriental rug decorating the floor, even though it looked like someone already had. It was like my mother was trying to throw our money out the window. I'd seen better looking rugs at Walmart. Mom sat in a chair like a queen, legs crossed at the knee, each arm draped loosely over the arms of the chair. Dad was on the couch, one elbow propped on the edge next to him, the other tapping out a rhythm on his knee that only he could hear. It was like a freaking intervention. I lifted my chin even higher, prepared to fight. They weren't getting Astrid's diary. They weren't. Isobel. Mom drew out my name, emphasizing all 3 syllables. Mother. I drew out the 2 syllables, giving as good as I got. Something inside me began screaming at how ridiculous this all was. Don't be disrespectful, Izzy. Dad's voice was sharp, but was that a hint of apology in his eyes? I didn't care enough to look closer and find out. Mom waited for several seconds. I was pretty sure she was trying to make me uncomfortable. It worked. We looked up your grades today. It was disappointing, Isabel. That threw me. They did what? I mean, I knew our grades were all online, so parents could look at them whenever they wanted. They could look at every freaking assignment if they wanted. But this wasn't what I expected at all. I was so sure they were going after Astrid's journal that I couldn't do more than stare at them like an idiot. You received an 89% on your AP history test and an 87 on your French quiz. If those grades bothered her, just wait until she got a load of my physics test from today. Totally distracted by Astrid's diary sitting in the bag mere feet away in the kitchen, I was pretty sure I didn't have a prayer of even scraping the edges of 80%. I didn't comment, hooking my thumbs in the pockets of my jeans and simply waiting. I was too relieved they weren't going after the diary to care if they were angry about my grades. In fact, bring it on. How do you plan to get into Harvard with those grades? Mom's voice was cold, cutting, the ice queen on steroids. Had she ever been loving? Had she ever folded Astrid and me into her arms as children just for the joy of holding her children? I was having a hard time remembering as I stared across the room. Her question gutted me, but I refused to let it show. Harvard? She actually believed I planned to go to Harvard even after all my objections? Harvard was Astrid's dream, not mine, I said, my voice shaking a little despite my efforts to smooth it out. I was too stunned by the obvious fact that my parents seemed to think I would follow in my dead sister's footsteps instead of having my own plans for the future. Mom's hand waved in the air, dismissing my words, dismissing me. Don't be ridiculous. What else would you do? My entire body flushed hot. Get a swimming scholarship and attend Michigan Tech? Silence fell over the room, my words apparently stunning my parents into speechlessness. They hadn't expected their wayward daughter to have a plan of her own. I began to see now that their expectations were far different from mine. Apparently, I was supposed to become my sister. I was supposed to slide into her shoes, into her plans, into her life, as if it were my own. My parents needed a good daughter, one they could brag about. I wasn't it, but I was suddenly an only child, and all of their attention and hopes were now pinned on me. It didn't thrill me, to say the least. A swimming scholarship is a good idea. Dad recovered first, nodding like a puppet on a string. Tuition at Harvard will be a killer. It's like they didn't even hear me. My whole body began to sag, but I forced steel into my spine. What in the world would you study at Michigan Tech? Mom spit out the name of the college like it was a bad batch of wine. Computer programming? I admit I hadn't had any plans at the beginning of last year, but during my junior year, I began fooling around with some things in my computer tech class. Our teacher, Mr. Dillard, had commented that I seemed to have a knack for it, and it made me feel good. Aside from swimming, there wasn't a whole lot I could say I was great at. I felt excited about looking into it more. Mr. Dillard had even talked to the guidance counselor. He had Ms. Peterson look into which colleges had the best programs for software engineering and got me some pamphlets of different universities. Michigan Tech was one of the best, as it turns out. Close to home. Awesome. Not. Mom squinted at me like she was trying to figure out if I was joking. Dad just stared. I think he was too stunned to say anything. I'm sorry. She sounded anything but sorry. Where did this come from? I shrugged. Learned some stuff in class, thought it was pretty cool. Mr. Dillard's been helping me get information on the best programs. You learned some stuff in class, Mom repeated slowly, letting it hang there like a dead weight in the middle of the room. I braced myself. This doesn't sound like a solid career plan, Isabel. I gritted my teeth, only unclenching them with supreme effort. Actually, Ms. Peterson and Mr. Dillard seem to think it's a great plan. And anyway, I'm only 17. Wrong thing to say. Wrong, wrong, wrong. I wished I could reel the words back in as soon as I swept past my lips. Even Dad's eyes closed briefly, like he couldn't believe his daughter was dumb enough to say that out loud. Mom's manicured fingernails dug into the arms of the chair, her fingertips bleaching white at the loss of blood. Only 17. This was going to be bad. When Mom kept repeating everything the other person said, it meant she was trying to control her temper and losing. I cleared my throat. I just mean that I have time to figure things out. Change course if I don't like it, you know? Change course. Mom looked like she was on the verge of a stroke. This was almost worse than if they had ganged up on me about Astrid's journal again. I glanced toward the kitchen, hoping maybe Lorna would hear what was going on and mercifully come up with a reason for me to leave, but the entryway stayed empty. Smart woman. Isabel, this is the most critical time. This is when the rest of your future is decided. Now, honey, even Dad seemed to think that was a bit melodramatic, his brows crinkling as he held a hand up. My mother, however, was going to steamroll over anything or anyone in her path. If you get this wrong now, Isabel, it could take years to set it right again. I blinked rapidly. Geez, no pressure, I muttered. Don't get lippy with me, young lady, Mom snapped. Honestly, Astrid understood. She knew the importance of working hard and getting it right the first time. Even Mom seemed to realize she had gone too far as utter silence fell over the room. Even Lorna's clatter in the kitchen ended abruptly. Stunned and gutted by Mom's words, I couldn't do anything but stare blankly across the room. There it was. I had suspected my parents believed the wrong daughter had died, and I couldn't ask for better confirmation than the words hovering in the air between us. Astrid had been the golden daughter, the one who did everything right. She was the one who was supposed to live, to shine and fulfill our parents' expectations. My hand sliced through the air, almost violently, abruptly cutting off my father. I was done. I was so done. Look, it was impressive, really, that my voice could be so detached, so normal, when every cell in my body was either on fire with rage or shattering from pain. I get that the wrong daughter died. Mom jerked, her face turning ashen, but she didn't deny it, not even with a small shake of her head. There was nothing. I get that Astrid was better at everything, that she was the star of the family, but that doesn't mean you get to control what I do with my life just because she's gone and you suddenly need a new project, a new star you can throw in your friends' faces. Dad's breath sucked in sharply, his eyes narrowing as if he had moved on from shock to anger. Well, too bad. I wasn't done yet. Unfortunately, neither one of us got to say anything because Mom had suddenly regrouped. Isabel Crane, we are your parents, and as a minor, we do have control of your life, whether you like it or not. Mom pushed off from her chair, crossing the room until she was so close I could smell wintergreen from her favorite mints. I tried not to flinch, but I did, just a little. And let me remind you that if your grades slip or if you decide this disrespectful behavior is going to become the norm, the keys to your precious blazer and your phone will pass to our hands. Do I make myself clear? She waited, one eyebrow sliding upward as the seconds ticked by. Very, I finally ground out, my jaw aching. I was clenching my teeth so hard. And I want Astrid's diary. I felt like she'd punched me in the stomach, my breath leaving my lungs in a rush, my eyes widening in shock. Caught up in the realization that my parents thought they could control every aspect of my life, I had forgotten they might go after the diary. No. It came out strangled and weak, not how I planned it at all. Mom's mouth opened, her eyes narrowing, but Dad was suddenly there with a hand on her shoulder. Look, Izzy, we know what you believe, but that diary is the last link any of us have with Astrid. His voice hitched on her name, closed over it. He cleared his throat. Don't you think we want to read it too? Have that connection with her? Once again, the room fell silent, and this time I heard a small scrape from beside the kitchen entryway. Lorna might not be willing to put herself in the middle of a family showdown, but she was there. Her presence filtered strength back into my wilting body, and I was ramrod straight again, glaring at both my parents. No, I don't think you want that connection with her. I think you want to hide her. Dad looked like I'd slapped him, but Mom just looked pissed, and that was how I knew I was right. I turned on my heel and headed for the kitchen, heart pounding, expecting a restraining hand on my arm at any second. Isabel, you will hand that journal over now. We are your parents, and we expect you to obey us. I stopped, pivoting slowly on my heel just shy of the kitchen. I won't let you erase her. The words were harder to say than I expected, and I had to swallow hard to continue. I won't let you take away the truth. Before my parents could say another word, I turned and sprinted for the kitchen, grabbing my backpack off the stool and my keys off the counter, Lorna staring after me in shock. Barreling into the cool fall air, I jumped into the blazer and rammed it into gear, tires squealing as I made my getaway. So what's up with you? I jerked in surprise, slamming my swim locker closed harder than I intended. What? Harper adjusted her swim cap and picked up her goggles, rolling her eyes like I was missing something obvious. What's up with you, Iz? I can tell there's something you're not telling me. It threw me off balance. I was supposed to be asking her how she was doing, not the other way around. And I wasn't ready to tell her about Astrid's diary. Not yet. I still wasn't sure if she could handle it right now. But we also didn't lie to each other. Ever. Harper's arms crossed, eyebrows rising as she waited. I sighed, stalling for another few seconds before realizing I would have to give her something. I'm going to tell you, I said, trying to inject confidence into my voice so she would believe me. I mean, it was the truth. Just not yet, okay? I need a little more time. A line creased the space between Harper's eyebrows as she frowned. Voices rose and fell around us as the other girls from the team finished getting ready and slammed their lockers closed before heading out to the pool. I forced myself to keep my gaze on Harper's face so she would know I was telling the truth. I would tell her, just not yet. But you're okay? Harper finally asked slowly, clearly not sure if she should believe me. I'm fine. Time to turn the tables. But your smile isn't lighting up your eyes, friend, so it's your turn to spill. What's up? Harper's lips tightened for a split second before her face fell, and I could see just how exhausted she was. It made my heart twist a little with fear. In that instant, I knew I'd keep Harper there until she talked to me, even if I had to put her in a headlock to stop her from walking away. I hadn't seen it with Astrid. I hadn't seen how life had taken my sister and chewed her up, then spit her out again until she didn't feel like she could go on. There was no way I was going to miss anything with Harper. I couldn't lose her. I wouldn't lose her. Harper sank down onto a bench as if her body was suddenly too weak to hold her upright. It freaked me out, and I plopped down next to her, feeling adrenaline sing through my veins, making me jittery. My brain was going 100 miles an hour, trying to predict what she was going to tell me and how I could solve whatever problem she had so that we could walk out of there knowing she would be okay. Is it Stacy? I swear I'll find her and easy, ninja, Harper said dryly, one eyebrow arching. You're starting to sound a lot like Jazz. I straightened defensively. Well, I would. I know you would, and that's why I love you. Well, part of why I love you, Harper amended. One corner of her mouth lifted slightly, then sagged again as if it was just too much work for her muscles. If it's not Stacy, then what is it, Harp? My gaze darted around the locker room to make sure we wouldn't be overheard, but everyone had already left for the pool. Coach was going to be furious that we were late, but I couldn't worry about that right then. It's just, you know how I told you that sometimes it can just feel like something is off? Like I'm down, but I don't know why. And I can't shake it, you know? Okay. I licked my lips and reached to put my hand on Harper's shoulder, then pulled back, not sure if she wanted to be touched. Like how sometimes being touched did the opposite and pissed me off instead of being comforting. I mean, everything is going so good with Drew. I should be happy, but I'm not. Okay, I said again, not sure what else to say. Everything feels wrong, and there's this heaviness that I can't shake. It's like I'm on the verge of tears all the time. Like I just need to get the tears out and then I'll feel better. Harper took a ragged breath. Except I can't get them out. I can't cry. And even if I manage it a little, it doesn't help. The negative in everything is just right there, and I can't see anything else. My heart twisted, a feeling of panic creeping in around the edges of my mind. I wasn't sure what to do. How do I help my friend? What could I say to stop her from feeling like this? To stop that heaviness from turning into something even darker? It's exhausting. Harper sighed, running her hands down her face. The dark circles under her eyes suddenly made a lot more sense. Look, I'm sure you'll snap out of it, Harper. Immediately, I knew it was the wrong thing to say. Harper's fingers dug into the wood bench, her eyes turning hard. If I could snap out of it, Izzy, don't you think I'd have done that already? It's not like I want to feel like this. Crap. I felt Harper closing herself off from me, like a wall suddenly stood in between us. I had just wanted to say something that would make her feel better, but instead I made it worse. My mouth opened, but before I could say anything, before I could think of what to say, the locker room door burst open, and Opal, a junior with even wider shoulders than mine, glared at us through her goggles. Hey, Coach is getting irritated. You guys better hustle. She was gone in the next instant, and Harper stood up, obviously done with our conversation. I reached out a hand, not wanting her to go yet, not before I had fixed this. Harp, she stepped to the side, out of reach. It stung. This isn't something you can fix, Iz. Just do me a favor and don't quote dumb platitudes at me, okay? Doesn't help. I but Harper was gone, the heavy locker room doors slamming behind her and echoing off the tiled walls and floor. Harper didn't get mad often, and even less often with me or Jazz. This whole thing with Astrid's diary was getting to me, and now Harper was pissed with me. My chest clenched with anxiety. I had to get out to the pool before Coach came looking for me. That would not go over well. Then I realized the answer to relieving my stress was right where I was supposed to be anyway, the pool. Pulling my goggles on over my swim cap, I went out to burn off some tension.
Thank you very much for that reading. Wow, just reliving every page of that book, hearing it through your voice. It's really wonderful. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but what was your favorite part about writing this book? Maybe I could rephrase it. What was the most meaningful part about writing this book?
I think probably the most meaningful was just learning from other people, because I talked to a lot of people and a lot of people who struggled with depression and suicidal thoughts. Not only learning the scope and degree to which people struggle with this, and a lot of people that we just don't even realize struggle with it because they hide it so well.
Right.
And then finding out what can help, like the correct responses, the correct way to try to help them or to be there for them. Because that's something that it is so easy, like we just saw with Izzy, it's so easy to say the wrong thing in a situation like that. It's so easy for those of us who don't struggle with it to think, well, just snap out of it, or, go for a walk, you'll feel better, or, and it's like, it's so different from that.
Sure.
These people live with something inside their mind and inside, their heart that they can't get rid of, even if they're trying so hard. And that's what just constantly brings them down and just creates all of those thoughts and those feelings inside them. And it's like, so to really kind of know now how I can help somebody or try to help somebody who is struggling with these things is very important to me. And I'm glad I wrote it so that other people can hopefully understand that as well.
Yeah, me too. I think this is, as I've told you before, I think this is a book that should be in every pastor's library, every counselor's library, every parent's library, every teacher's library. I just think everybody needs to know about this book because it approaches teen suicide from a very accessible place. And it makes it real rather than mystifying the whole thing. So yeah. I think that's the greatest gift that you gave us with this book, is that you've made it something real for us to understand.
I'm glad that it has done that, because this really is something that I think needs to be addressed and thought about more often than it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so grateful that you came on the program today. Thank you for sharing this work with us. You keep writing your amazing stories for young people. I think you're such an incredible inspiration. So I really appreciate you. Thank you very, very much.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. And you're going to come back another day, right?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Just keep coming back.
Okay.
Thanks. Have a great afternoon.
You too.